So I'm just going to go ahead now, take the final step to actually implement our Lua runtime. So this is going to actually initialize the Lua scripting environment that we're going to be setting up for ourselves. And at the core of it, that can be just as simple as, in this case, running our configuration file. So let's take that as an example. Again, we follow this pattern where we're going to pass in the Lua state. And what we want to do here is run a file. So it's going to be our Lua configuration file. Let's see, that in turn is going to be a string which we're going to get from our bundle. Okay, so we've got our NS string. Now the thing is, this is not going to work. We cannot pass in an Objective-C string into our Lua functions. We have to pass in standard C null terminated strings. So let's get a null terminated string. It's going to return non-zero if there is an error. So that's the reason I've coded it up that way. We'll finally show what actual error comes out of our Lua program. To do that, we're going to use our first Lua accessor. So it's going to be Lua toString. So what is it that's toString? Well, you might think that we'd put some arguments to convert inside of the parens here, but that's not how Lua works. As I mentioned, it uses the stack. So what we need to do is pass in our Lua state, and we need to tell it where on the stack to look to get that string from. So I'm going to put a -1 there, and that's just going to tell Lua I want the thing that is right on the very top of the stack. 1 would be the very bottom, the first thing put on the stack. 2 would be the second, but counting back down from the top, I use -1, -2. So in case of an error, it's going to put it on the top of the stack, and here we're going to use Lua toString to fetch that as a string for us. Now, of course, the final thing we need to do is actually create our configuration file. So let's just add that down here in our resources. It's going to be just an empty text file. Create that file. Alright, so let's see, we'll just print a little message to say that you saw that I had that cheat mode. How I've been enabling that is to actually, through the command line here, passing in this cheat mode variable. So let's just get rid of that altogether. Uncheck that completely. So no more variable. And we're going to initialize it using cheat mode is actually checked here in this level.m. And I added this on top of Victor's tutorial. All it really does is it looks in the user defaults, which I can set via a command line variable. Looks in the user defaults to see if it's set, and if it is, it's going to add in a bunch of extra cheat mode coins at the bottom, and then it's going to put in a little string there to remind us that cheat mode has been turned on. So that's what that code I added does, and you saw it previously when I ran the project. Final step is to actually just call up our Lua engine and run those initialization functions. So I'm going to do that inside of did finish launching with options here right before Cocos actually starts displaying graphical stuff on the screen. So that looks like a good spot for it right there. I'll just go to the top of the file, add in our Lua engine. And then here we can do our actual running of the file. Alright. Okay, so what we see is that our Lua configuration has actually been loaded, and the configuration is not actually doing very much for us just right now because we've got this cheat mode variable mentioned here, but we're not doing anything on the Objective-C side to actually load up and use that variable. So we will call Lua global with our Lua state, and the name of the variable is going to be our cheat mode variable. Now you might wonder, okay, why are we not returning something here and assigning Lua get global to some variable? The answer is again our stack. What happens there is we're saying, hey Lua, go get the thing called cheat mode, put it on top of the stack so we're ready to get it off. So it's up to us to actually access the element that's on the stack there. And to do that, what we're going to do is we'll go create a Boolean variable, and we will call Lua to Boolean on our Lua state, and it's going to be -1 because it's going to be on the top of our stack. Well, let's just say if it is a Boolean at all, then we'll assume it's the right one. So in order to check that, what I'm going to do is, okay, now in reality this is actually going to give us very limited error checking because this is actually going to try and cast it to Boolean. There's a lot more error checking that we could do, but you know, this is kind of, I'm going to take a fairly lightweight approach. You can use whatever level of error checking you think is appropriate depending on who's involved in your project. Check inside of the Lua textbook. I recommend you buy that book if you can because it's going to support the guys who are actually building the Lua language as well as giving you a great reference. But inside of there's a lot more stuff about how you can do much more thorough error checking for key, and that's going to give us the same effect. Okay, so let's see how that works. Okay, now we've got our cheat mode back. And as you can see, it was set to on from our Lua configuration file, which is just what we want. Okay, so we've progressed a little step further. We've actually got some Lua runtime that's actually doing something a little bit useful.